Well, again, one of the first things we did was we centralized as much as we can to support. So we automated everything. And we actually, in the early stages of really trying to get this, we've actually turned their Google reviews into some net promoter score activities so that we're measuring the practices. But once we proved the value, and then there was competition and that was a report that went out every month of like,
yeah. So I don't want to be at the bottom of that list. I want to be at the top, whether I'm an office manager or a doctor, regardless, right?
Yeah. If you get rid of negative reviews, which you just said it, a lot of people do. You go on, you don't trust it because they got 5,000 5-star reviews. There's no trust for me in that. I need to see that some people didn't have a great experience and what you're doing to fix it. So I actually like the authenticity. And we've left comments of like, hey, we can't actually find you in our patient records.
Welcome to another episode of Dental Marketing Go. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I am the CEO of SMC National. We are a digital marketing agency that helps you have predictable new patient flow so you can achieve your visions of growth. And I get to do awesome things every single day because I get to work with awesome people every single day. And today I'm talking with Amber Nish, and she is the COO of Rev Tribes, but in her prior life, she was the CMO of Community Dental Partners. She oversaw 80 offices, marketing campaigns, and she had over 6,000 new patients a month coming in that she was responsible for making sure they get in the doors. And she spills her guts on how she did that. She gave us the most important thing that you're not going to want to miss as part of the marketing plan. And this 20-minute conversation is just packed with quality stuff. So make sure you watch. All right, Amber. So we're seeing over 6,000 new patients a month at Community Dental Partners. You were the CMO, so that was your job, was to bring in these 6,000 new patients every single month, which was about 20% of your patient volume. How were you getting that many patients to come into your practices?
Yeah, so the how has actually changed over the years. Early at CDP, a lot of our marketing was very, ground level, face-to-face, getting out in front of potential patients and meeting them where they were. We were mostly pediatric focused Medicaid practices. And so being in the local community and building up our patient base that way was critical. Obviously that shifted through COVID. And so then we really transitioned to
Sorry to disrupt the show, but I got something crazy to share with you. We are attempting to connect with all of our listeners. We have thousands of people that listen to this podcast, and we want to meet you in person. We have 4 events coming up, and I want to give you a discount code that you can use for the next week to save $300 off your ticket. The discount code is Gary Bird, and the link is going to be just down below. You can also go to smcnational.com/events. I hope to connect with you in person and help each other grow our businesses. Can't wait to see you soon.
Pretty solid combination of digital and on-site marketing, but really the digital powerhouse marketing tools came into play after COVID and after that face-to-face marketing was not as available. And so we were really intentional about creating an online experience that matched our on-site experience. And so, yeah, we a lot of our clients and patients come through digital marketing now.
Got it. And so on the ground and pound, so the getting out there, getting into the community, is that something that, as you guys were doing it, is that something that you think they'll continue to do and will continue to be a mover in the market? And and I know it's popular in pedo Medicaid. Is it popular? I don't think anybody else uses it. Is that correct?
Not as consistently as pedo Medicaid is. I think a lot of times in that market, what you have to do to get those clients oftentimes to come to the dentist is go build trust and meet them where they are and connect with them and interrupt kind of their current thought process and introduce the idea. There's a lot of education that has to happen in that market and a lot of trust building that needs to happen. In other markets, there's typically a different understanding and a different desire. So they may be, digital marketing really plays a role, particularly in higher end and even PPO, where they're going online, they're looking, they want to go to the dentist. They just want to figure out who's got the best reviews, who's going to give them the services that they're after. So the educational component is different when you're not in a pedo Medicaid market. And when you're avatar, there's just an education that you don't have to overcome as much. And on the ground marketing solves that education component.
So that's a great explanation of it, and I've never quite thought of it exactly that way. So you have the going out in the community where you're finding people who aren't Googling for a dentist. That's really the component that you're getting, and then from a marketing perspective, and then you have the people who are Googling for a dentist, and then you need to figure that side out. So do you think as this like market moves forward? And I'm thinking about people with like maybe 5 offices, 10 offices. And so if I have 5 or 10 offices and they're all pediatric Medicaid offices, do you feel like that ground and pound component's going to always be there because you're going to always have these people who aren't searching for a dentist? Or do you kind of see that pendulum swinging as more and more people learn about going to the dentist?
I think it's always going to be there, but you can do a couple of things. If you are launching a de novo and your entire patient volume is reliant on new patients, then that ground and pound has to happen. However, social media is another place that is an interrupting your thought process, educational opportunity. It can come in, and a really well done social media campaign and strategy can bridge the gap between that. You're interrupting their social media. They're not looking, they're not Googling, right? You pop up in the middle of their like searching through, their videos, TikTok, things like that. So I think social media can come in and bridge that gap for most offices. If it's a brand new office, I do think you have to hit the ground as well.
So, okay. So I want to go down that social media road. So the problem that I've ran into on social media is that usually it's the larger treatment that you're going to use it on because the cost per acquisition is just going to be through the roof because Facebook just is getting in the early days, it was great. And then now the cost just keeps going up and keep going up and keep going up. So when you're saying like, okay, let's use social media to disrupt their day, which I totally agree with you. That's a good vehicle. But how is that something just as you kick off offices because then you're not as concerned your cost per acquisition or long-term strategy, or how are you thinking through that?
We've actually found it to be great for kicking off our offices. You're right. You do know that your cost per acquisition is going to be higher in a startup. And that's just to be expected as you build the brand, you build your digital presence, your websites, all the things, right? So there is a higher cost, but we've actually found Facebook has done, we've gotten some pretty low cost per acquisitions on Facebook just for our pedo Medicaid. I think it has a lot to do with a multi-pronged approach of just hitting them in every place you can find them and just reminding them of, and it's really branding intentional. It may not be conversion intentional. And so I think that's the place where you have to watch what you're doing, but you just get your brand out there and be fun and build up your own, your social media page as well. And share that and get connected. But then also it may not always be the final conversion destination point, but it is still a very solid branding play. But I will say in truth, we've actually found even in our newer markets, Facebook is actually doing better than Google has done in terms of cost per acquisition.
What are you seeing cost per acquisition wise? Like so in a pedo Medicaid, what were you seeing?
Cost per acquisition down at the $40 to $50 for an appointment, which typically translates into $100 for a walk-in. And so
because half of them aren't showing. So if let's just use round numbers. So $50 cost per acquisition, that's someone scheduling an appointment. Half of those show up. Right. So you end up $100 through the door.
Yes. Yeah. And some of our practices are a little bit lower than that, especially the ones that have been around for a little bit longer and just awareness and branding is stronger. But yeah, early on for me, for $100 cost to put a patient in a brand new de novo, that feels pretty solid, right? Because, ideally you want to make,
so short term, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but short term, it makes a lot of sense because it's a de novo. Long term, you have to start to adjust your strategy to get that cost down because you're only getting a couple $100 from that patient over the year. So is that how you're thinking through it?
That's exactly right. So we're willing to spend it up front a little bit more because, again, you get them and then maybe their sister, their sibling, their friend, their cousin, right? It's a de novo. So you're really you kind of pay the price to have more brand marketers at the end of the day, right? You're like, I'm kind of paying for a patient to walk in the door, but also ideally some additional marketing support, right? They can speak for you. So you want them to leave you reviews and bring you patient referrals. And that game is really intense in a de novo, but absolutely as that practice ages and word of mouth and your digital presence expands, then the cost per acquisition should absolutely go down.
Got it. And then, so do you, so then what are the drivers later? So let's say now I don't have a de novo. I have like an established office. I'm seeing, 200 pediatric patients a month. These kiddos are coming in, and what now is my marketing campaign? What should it look like? And how does that tie into, like, I know you're big on this, like, how does that tie into the patient journey?
I think the patient journey, when your practice is established, is actually critical, because what you need is a great patient journey and great reviews. Getting good reviews on your Google business listing is probably singularly the best marketing investment you'll make.
Yeah, agreed.
Everybody goes. I mean, just like when we go look to what product we're going to buy on Amazon, what's the first thing we look at? Reviews. That is where people go now. I look for a restaurant. I go to the Google business listing and I look at the reviews almost before I figure out if they're close to me or not, right? Like that, those Google reviews are, I would say, is the single most powerful marketing tool that you have. And you do not get them if you do not have a good patient experience in the office, right? So you could ask for it and you can automate the request for Google reviews. You're not going to get them if the patient journey isn't good. So you really have to be intentional.
Or you'll get them and they'll be bad. You'll get bad reviews, right?
We've had happen, right? We're like, never mind, stop asking them for a minute so we clean up some of our problems, right?
Yeah.
Because that's absolutely a risk of happening.
Because a lot of people don't leave review. No one, we are in like more of a review nation now. I think there's even in some markets, there's saturation where it becomes distrustworthy, where every dentist has 5 million reviews. It's like, okay, what do I do with that now? They're all 5-star reviews, but one thing that I have noticed is that no one leaves, like we kind of are taught to leave a review. I feel like I should leave. I'm obligated to leave a review for restaurants at times and some other services, but for dentistry, I don't. It doesn't even pop into my mind that I'm going to go review my doctor, right?
Yeah.
So how do you disrupt that in the patient journey? Like, how are you disrupting? Because there's tons of options, right? So you can you can do all kinds of things. So what are your thoughts on that? And then how are you diving into the patient journey from there?
So I think one of the best things you can do, I've found automation of that review request to be really helpful, and set it at a time where they've left the office, right? You don't want it to hit them right when they're in the car because they're not going to do it.
How are you automating it? Is like, are you using
goes
software?
out via a text with a link, right? So we have a text.
Who did you guys use?
We use NextHealth.
Okay.
And so they send out an automated text. It's linked to our Google review or Facebook, whichever one you choose, and you can do either one. I prefer Google until you built that up, and then you want to go to Facebook and swap it back and forth. But Google,
because people aren't hopping on Facebook and going, I want to find my next dentist. You know what I mean? So Google makes a lot more sense to start with. So
start there, build that up, but send that out as just an automated response, right? So that helps. But I actually find
at what time? So if someone comes in at like 8 a.m. to my dental
about
appointment,
2 hours later.
Okay.
I'm a big fan.
So whenever their appointment is, doesn't matter what time of day it is. It's 2 hours later.
Right. Some people do them all at like 7 o'clock at night because you think, oh, well, they'll be home, but those people probably aren't moms because I'm home and running around like crazy trying to take care of my kids. So that's like almost the worst time to ask me to do something. Yeah. But give me a couple hours to get back home from the appointment, get back to the office or whatever I'm doing. And then, I can respond to a quick text really fast in the middle of the day. Like that's not as cumbersome to me. But I actually think one of the best things to do is that the staff talks about it, that you have signs present with QR codes even, but really the staff saying it helps us so much if you will leave us a good review. I've even seen sort of incentives of like, hey, leave us a review and we'll give you a t-shirt, whatever. Like you really want to create a culture where everybody in the practice understands the value of that review and responds to them. If you want more reviews, engage.
Oh yeah. So I want to talk about the first thing that you said there. You said you have to create a culture of it. So here's what I've noticed with dental offices, even big ones. So I've watched people who present and they go, we got, 1,500 offices. We have 700 offices. We're like this multi-billion-dollar company. We have, hundreds of dentists on the team. We have, thousands of operators that are, hygienists and dental assistants. And we have a marketing team of 6 people. And I'm just like, there's what I'm like, oh, what? Like nobody. Yeah. There's just like, and I've seen it over and over and over again. So what happens is you get somebody who's like marketing minded And it's like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, because no one in the office wants to ask for Google reviews. They all think it's below their pay grade, right?
Yes.
At first, like
or
at first,
referrals, they don't want to do that either, right? So
yes, because I'm a doctor. Like I literally went to school to operate on people, and you're asking me to go do a dance on Facebook. You know what I mean? That's how it enters into their brain. So how? And that's changing, right? But it's very slow changing. It's not a normal thing yet. So how did you do that? Like, how did you get them on board of like, hey, we need more Google reviews and you need to make that happen?
Well, again, one of the first things we did was we centralized as much as we can to support, right? So we automated everything. And we actually, in the early stages of really trying to get this, we've actually turned their Google reviews into some net promoter score activities so that we're measuring the practices. And so a lot of it was, we'll do all the work up front so that you can see the value. And then there's a score. And we're telling them every month how many new reviews you got, right? So the accountability showed up. And then we actually did transition to, okay, now practice managers, you've seen the value. It's actually your job to respond to these reviews and engage, because we proved it valuable first in a very simple format of, we'll handle as much of the work as we can, as we centralized it and invested in that. But it did take a lot of people, because there's a lot of technology that helps. And so, you just go into like a Hootsuite and respond to all the reviews. And it's pretty easy for one. I mean, we had, I think, 2 people doing it for 80 offices. Like, it's not a heavy hitting responsibility. But once we proved the value, and then there was competition amongst, and that was a report that went out every month of like,
So I don't want to be at the bottom of that list. I want to be at the top, whether I'm an office manager or a doctor, regardless, right? Yeah.
The regionals were having visibility to it. It was coming up in meetings. So we created that culture first, and then handed the responsibility off to the practice managers and said, now that you get it, you see it, you understand why it matters. We want this because it comes better for them. There are some things that you can centralize, but if I know Mary and I was the practice manager when Mary came in, I can respond differently to Mary's review than the person sitting at her home office. It's good, but the best option is that somebody from the practice does it, that knows Mary personally, is like, hey, hope Mary, has a great soccer tournament game today, whatever. You get a lot more engagement and it feels more honest. So that's kind of how we do it.
The only thing I would be scared of, and this is going into the weeds, is just like the HIPAA side of it, right? Like I get these messages sometimes where people are like, did we violate HIPAA on the response? And I'm like, did you say anything about their dental visit at all?
Nothing about their dental visit, right? Yeah. So you want to be personal without being, over the top. But I think, as long as you're not like, hey, Mary, we're glad you got your crown and your, 3 cavities filled today, your mouth, as long as we don't share that medical information, we're good. But that also comes on the negative reviews too. And you've got to have a good compliance and support and training around, because what I don't love is getting rid of negative reviews or negative reviews that aren't engaged with. If you get rid of negative reviews, which you just said it, a lot of people do, you go on, you don't trust it because they got 5,000 5-star reviews. There's no trust for me in that. I need to see that some people didn't have a great experience and what you're doing to fix it. So I actually like the authenticity and we've left comments of like, hey, we can't actually find you in our patient records. So that like, if somebody else goes to look at it, they're like, well, that review is a reviewer problem, not a dental problem, right?
That's most people don't. Dentists freak out when they get. I just had a dentist reach out recently, and he was like, Gary, this bad review, it's going to ruin us. And I'm like, okay, let me look at this. And it was a negative review, right? And he had 500 other good reviews, and I was like, you literally don't even have to worry about it. Like, it's not going to impact your business. You're good. But I totally agree. When you get to this market saturation where you have hundreds of good reviews, everybody goes and reads the negative reviews first, because that's what actually tells. And the best example I can give is like when you buy things on Amazon, using your example from earlier, if I want to buy a new vacuum and they have 10,000 5-star reviews, I want to see the bad ones instantly. And if they're all like, hey, I got the wrong color. If they keep saying that, I asked for a gray, but it's really more of a black. Like, I don't care what color the vacuum is. Like, cool, this is a great company. But if they're like, hey, they ship me a blender instead of a vacuum, and I see that over and over again, and I see 10 of those, and then I don't see any response from the company, now I'm going to hesitate. But if the company all said, you know what, we had a glitch, we're sorry, we're sending it back out, and we gave you $100 store credit, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm going to be like, oh, that's a good company. They actually care. And I think most people miss that opportunity that your negative review can actually become your most positive review.
Yes. The trust building that can come from a negative review and somebody else watching how you handle that gives them confidence. I don't ever expect a business. That's like going to the restaurant. I never expect that every time all food is delivered. Like, there is a realistic humanity and I want that humanity. And I want somebody to come in and say, we are so sorry. Here's how we solved this. Or we can't find you as a patient of record. Please call us. We might anything that just says, and I don't love canned responses, right? So that's when automation, there is some automation that can just, thank you for your response. We were, that's why I like
sorry, we stink so bad. We're working on it to get better so we can be a better you tomorrow.
Like, we can tell that they automated it. And I don't find that doesn't give me any more trust either, which is why we like the practice managers doing it, because you build that trust in the community and the practice that you're going to. And I think, again, that patient journey, no one is better at marketing for you than a current patient. Nobody. Like, even as a CMO, I'm never going to outmatch the power that somebody who went to your practice and had a great time will have in that community. So that's the most important marketer you've got.
Yeah, 100%. That's the part that if you can figure out the patient referrals, then all of a sudden marketing becomes way easier, because, and this is the part of the nuance I think that most people miss, is that when a marketing patient is coming in, they don't trust you. They don't know you. Right. They just Google searched it. They read some reviews. So they're kind of filling you out. Patient referral fully trusts you. It's like, oh, you took care of Susan and you fixed Susan's teeth. I love Susan. Susan's, the greatest lady ever. And she told me to come here. So I have no doubt you're going to fix my teeth. And what happens is that if you get good at getting patient referrals, what that actually means is that you're turning the marketing patients into referrers.
Yep.
And that's hard to do because they're low trust. And I think a lot of people think it's like, it's almost like this competition. It's not. It's actually a feeding farm, that if you figure out how to get these marketing patients to come back in and refer people, you don't need as much marketing. And that's really at the end of the day.
And it gives you more value for your dollar, because you spent, let's just make up that number, $100 to get that one patient. But then that one person brought their 2 kids plus their friend Sarah that had 2 kids. Right now, suddenly that $100 I just spent was well worth the money, right?
100%. Yeah.
And you don't have to spend any more.
But you got to figure that out, right? Yep. Like, you got to figure that out. Like, if you cannot turn the marketing patients into returning customers that want to refer their friends, then the marketing becomes actually very tedious and hard.
And expensive. It's incredibly expensive if you're retention. So again, I'm a big fan of watch the whole patient journey. Are you retaining your patients that have come in the door, particularly your marketing new patients? Are they giving you referrals? It goes back to that culture in the practice, which is really hard. Marketing and operations often sit in 2 different silos and 2 different buckets. And the best marketers are actually in your practice and in your office, and are the best ROI producers of marketing money. Marketing should be the icing on the cake, not the cake. And you got to have a great operational patient experience, patient journey. And then it just makes marketing, again, just that little bit on the top that just keeps things flowing.
Love it. Great stuff. All right. Last question for you. If we have all the dental marketers in the world, all in a stage, and they're in a stadium, and you're on stage and you get 10 seconds, 20 seconds to tell them something, what's your message?
Honestly, my message is make sure your phones are being answered. Check with operations and work tightly with operations, because
it's not even for the marketers. It's like, make sure you're telling your operators to answer their phone.
Again, it's not about that, but it's just build a great relationship with your operations team. It is the most critical relationship you will create as a marketer.
So my saying, Amber, is I've never been more successul than the front desk lady or guy, whoever's answered the phone ever. As a marketer. I've never exceeded their, I can't, they're my first restraint that I have. And so I love that. And that's right now the industry average is 35% unanswered.
So I'm like, there's no metric that matters to me more than if you're answering the phones. And if they need help, and show up and help and be, because that is a marketing type position. That's a sales, so get in there and help and be part of the solution. And so, that relationship between marketing and ops is not siloed. It is so interconnected that building a great relationship with that team, it will be the greatest security to success of your marketing efforts for sure.
Awesome. And if someone wants to reach out to you, because you're not a marketing CMO anymore, you are now a COO. So how can they reach out to you and learn about all the awesome stuff you're doing?
So the fun thing is that I've recently transitioned to a company called Revolutionary Tribes, and we are actually offering, as a CMO, support and leadership for marketing groups and any dental practices that are looking to grow and scale their businesses. We've got lots of leadership and coaching opportunities to help do that, and marketing is going to be part of that. So even marketing leaders who are just looking to expand their capabilities, reach out, and we'll be happy to kind of connect and set up a time to meet. But yeah, with Revolutionary Tribes, is we're building tribes to help founders grow and scale their vision and dreams. So I'm excited to be part of that and take it to the next level.
That's awesome. Yep. That's really, really exciting. So, thanks so much for coming on. And how can they reach you? Just go to Rev Tribes is the best way.
Just go to Rev Tribes is the best way, or, find us on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, just Amber Nish. So that's pretty easy too. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in. And Amber, thanks for coming on.